Hi everyone, this is Tanya Thompson from OffCourseOnline.com, and I hope that you're having a fantastic day and that the week's been good so far. So I wanted us to look at lumbar control, and the reason why I've got this topic today is because I have a client who I'm specifically focusing on this with. And that is because, and I'm sure you've had clients who are exactly the same, when they sit with their legs straight out in front of them, I can't even do as much flexion as they do, but there's a lot of flexion that's happening in the lumbar spine. And some of them have flexible hamstrings, so the issue isn't necessarily hamstrings, and some of them obviously then don't have that flexibility in the hamstrings. The problem is when you ask them to extend, they end up extending the thoracic spine, which most people struggle with already, and they seem to be finding that's the spot that's going to make me sit upright. So they struggle to extend the upper back, and they keep that flexion in the lumbar spine. And there's a couple of reasons why that actually happens. And then I want to show you what I actually did for the client to get him to be more aware of how to control his lumbar spine. We've been working with him for I've been working with him for about 2 months, and I cannot tell you how incredibly his back has improved if you look at the upstretch or the downward dog position, which was our aim, is to get that in a better position. Right, so from there's a few things that are going to restrict this position. The one is obviously length of hamstrings, because in order to sit upright, I have to pull my ischial tuberosities backwards, and that's going to help me extend lumbar. But in order to pull ischial tuberosities backwards, there has to be a release in the hamstrings to get me to that point. So that's number one. Number two, hip flexors are not used to being in such a concentric position, especially loaded, which would then be the body. And when it's not used to it, it cannot physically shorten to that degree and hold them there for an extended period of time, because it's really not good with it. The third thing is the spine doesn't know how to do that extension properly, and because they seem to extend thoracic the whole time, it's become inhibited in its thought process to be able to extend the lumbar spine. So we need to get the client to get the feeling of what it feels like when that lumbar spine works. But that is not going to be by putting them prone and getting them to do any back extension prone, because there they can get the feeling. They might not have great range because their spine is so used to being in that flexion. But they will get the feeling of, yes, okay, so that's when my lumbar spine activates. But when they're sitting here, they cannot get that same feeling in their lumbar spine. So we have to give them something that they can do on a daily basis throughout the day to start getting those muscles to fire and hold isometrically. They will fatigue, but then they're allowed to release it and then go back to what we actually want them to do. So one of the first things that I did, and I'll tell you why, for some people it works and for some people it doesn't. So I had him sitting with a foam roller here, and I said the foam roller has to be back on the ischial tuberosities, all right? So now I'm sitting in a slight posterior pelvic tilt. You are not allowed to push with your feet, so this is where they get confused, because I say the foam roller must move back, but you're not allowed to push with your feet. It has to be a change in your pelvic position. So hands are underneath the knees. And then from there, you're not going to think of actually straightening the legs. You're going to arch your back with the use of your lumbar back extensors and your hip flexors, but not by moving the torso forward, because that's the other cheat that they do, is they do this, and then they stay in that flexion, and again they extend the thoracic spine. The higher the knees are, the more challenging this is going to be, because now we're really shortening into that hip a lot, and they're already struggling with that process. So we want the legs a little bit further away, hands underneath the knees, and then you gently want to roll the foam roller back by changing the pelvic position and arching the lumbar spine, because that's what you want them to do, because they're constantly flexing. So you want them to arch the lumbar spine and make them aware of what it feels like inside the hip socket now, and that you can actually see and they can feel that there is actually an activation of muscles happening in the lower back. And this is how we educate our clients on where is the movement coming from. It's super important because people are landscape architects, lawyers, and accountants, and they don't know how this works. So we start that education process by getting them to understand how it moves, and then telling them what it feels like, and then allowing them to feel that movement for themselves. Now we've planted the seed to that better movement. And as this process continues, and as it is with this gentleman that I'm taking, is that movement becomes very automatic for him now. He knows what it should feel like when he does the upstretch or downward dog. So I don't have to say, remember, lead with your coccyx, lead with your tailbone, don't flex the spine, which I did in the beginning. You're flexing, come on, I need you to stick that bum out. That was such a cool cue. He was like, yes, I know exactly what that is. Now he automatically does it because he knows what's producing the movement, and he also knows what it feels like. And that's really what we want to incorporate when we're teaching our clients, is we're teaching them what's creating the movement, what's creating the stability, and then what it feels like in the body when it happens, and making them aware of that feeling, and reiterating those types of movements and feeling and anatomy, and eventually it sits really well with them, and they are more body aware. When you're working with shoulders, it's crucial. We take people who've been doing a similar sort of shoulder stability program, nice rotator cuff exercises, the same type of cueing, and we've changed it around completely, and we've educated them on what is creating the movement, what the bone at the back of the rib cage is doing, and what it feels like. And then obviously using the voice, because that's what you're doing here. You're sitting on the back of the ischial tuberosities. And they'll be like your two sit bones. We call them the ischial tuberosities. Hands over here. Now, you don't have to say anterior tilt. You can if you want to. You can just say, I want you to stick your bum out. This doesn't stick your bum out. That straightens your legs. I want you to stick your bum out and feel the shortening that's happening there in your back. Now that you've got that, I want you to reach your arms in front of you so that you don't use the holding on your legs to get that position and to hold it. Now that you've got the activation, just reach your arms in front of you. Don't have your knees too close to you, because then you're going to want to flex your spine, because that is your weakness. That is what you're really struggling with. And we're just trying to develop that mind-body connection. So that awareness of not pushing with the legs, but rather creating from the back of the ischial tuberosities to the front of the ischial tuberosities is really important. If they struggle with this concept and they're not getting that body awareness of the difference between straightening and just sticking the bum out, you can have them sitting on a chair. So this was the other thing that I did. But I don't have a chair here, so I'm just going to sit over here. So I had him sitting on a chair, and I had his feet on a foam roller on the floor. All right? So maybe I can actually do it like this. I don't know if you're going to see my head, but it doesn't matter. As long as you can see from my shoulder blades down. I think you will see my head. So I had him sitting on a solid chair, not on the ball, although the ball would also work. And I had the feet on a foam roller. Why did I have the feet on a foam roller? Because I want to teach him to be able, this is going to be interesting, I'm going to find my stability here, so this thing doesn't slip. I want to teach him, or whoever, to be able to shorten in the hip and extend the lumbar spine, because that's the position that we want them to be in when they're sitting with their legs straight out in front of them, or when they're doing teasers, or when they're doing leg changes. They have to be able to maintain this while the legs are actually moving, because that's how we create that good stability without the body moving all over the place for the most simple movements, unless that's what it requires for the movement. So here, with the feet on the foam roller, it makes them aware of deeper hip flexion, and then sitting up from the lumbar spine to activate hip flexors and lumbar back extensors. And this is going to start creating that feeling of, oh, so this is what it feels like when I'm upright in my lumbar spine, not my thoracic spine. And there's also work into my hip flexors. So we said that, okay, so this is what you're going to do when you're working on your PC, and then every now and then you can have a break. But having the feet lower down just makes it so easy. Yes, of course you can sit up there. But as soon as I did that, which is the movement that I'm trying to get them to do, which is hip flexion and lumbar back extension, this was more challenging. And the feedback for somebody who's constantly like this and struggles to extend that lumbar spine, the first thing that he said to me was, wow, I can really feel that these muscles are actually working to hold me in this position. And this is fantastic. This is like the best thing we've done out of all of those sessions, which was quite a few sessions. And it was just that little bit of education. People really do want that. People want to know how they can improve things, how they can take care of their bodies better. And just giving them that awareness and telling them what it feels like, and then adding in how you're going to progress on this, and then seeing the improvement without you constantly having to cue them, tells you that that client is on the right path. So when he now goes into that pike position, you can see that there's that extension in the lumbar spine, taking it to a neutral spine, but he's not in flexion. And you can see that those legs are getting straighter and straighter, so the hamstring flexibility is definitely improving. And the ability of the hip flexors to be short and maintain that shortening is definitely improving. And that's what we like to see, because these become part of our functional movements. So now I can have him rolling up, extending the lumbar spine, because there he'll get stuck in there and then lift thoracic. But extend lumbar, shortening hip flexors, and feel, yes, I'm actually getting that movement, and I can feel it there, and then getting that position much better. Or sitting up right there and feeling that there is a solid position over there and they don't feel compromised. If I say rolling up through the spine, so let's say we're doing a roll up, and we know they just stop there, I love finishing that movement and bringing the arms up and making them aware of what's happening lumbar, and not just doing this with thoracic, but actually getting lumbar to work. And we're always maybe trying to get a little bit away from lumbar because we feel like everybody's working in their backs, but they actually have to be working in their backs because they're getting weaker and weaker and weaker from all of this type of work. So that's really pivotal for a lot of our clients who struggle to extend lumbar spine with knees over here. So you can try it and see whether you're one of those people. If you are not a hip flexor, in other words, you flex easily from your hips, and you're a spinal flexor, you will find that you struggle with maintaining that good lumbar spine position. And when you start moving the legs, you'll be more inclined to go into flexion, which is totally fine. But when we start loading it, and these individuals, when they are like that in their spine, and they're doing a lot of loaded training, so now they're going to the gym, and they're doing the squats, the deep squats with weights in their hands, their spines are vulnerable to getting injured because they don't have the lumbar erectus spinae support, and they don't have the strength in it. So when they go down into that squat, they end up, let's say I'm squatting down now, they end up, when it's really heavy, they'll do a little tuck and then lift up. And it's when they have that moment of that posterior pelvic tilt that the back goes, oh my word, and the QL says, I'm going to have to hold this because nobody else is holding it. And even the quadratus lumborum takes strain. So that's a little bit of information just to help you to get those clients who have that lumbar flexion and really struggle with that extension, to be able to get them to awaken that area, to understand why it's important, and then to see the improvement. And the improvement is there when we see the form does look better, and we don't have to guide them as much in the movement or say, hold it there, can you extend a bit more? You went into flexion. I even focused on, so if I was here, I would say, I want you to stick your bum out. So normally we wouldn't want that, but with them, this is client specific because this to them doesn't look as severe as mine would. I want you to stick your bum out and then go up into that position. And I'd even have them rather there or rather there, as long as that lumbar spine was in a good position. And then I want them to hinge down because I'm training that lumbar spine to hold on and extending up and lowering down. And then when you see they're getting it, you'll have them doing that and then curving to come back down and teaching them how the spine actually moves and what it feels like. And it makes such a big difference. And that's just part of our teaching and bringing in our knowledge and educating the person in front of you. Loving movement and just allowing them to move is great, but we have to give them a little bit more. It's about feeling, it's about science and what's relevant to them, and movement is never black and white. There's a lot of gray areas. Some people don't understand the anatomy and you're not going to tell them what it is. You're just going to say these muscles here are going to shorten, or you're going to teach them the anatomy. Some people want to see what you're doing, and as soon as they see that bum stick out, they'll be like, oh, that's exactly what she wants, and you can go here. Some people don't actually want all of the cues that you're giving. I don't have many of those. They love the fact that I can talk them through the exercise, and I think that helps them, well, I know it helps them develop that mind-body connection. So it's never really just black and just white. There's a lot of gray areas in between when it comes to movement. I absolutely love the science behind movement, but for me, it's also about the feeling behind movement. What science is relative to this individual? We want them to be able to work quickly. We want them to be able to work slowly for that time under tension. I was taking somebody yesterday on the TRX, and we did a pull-up on the TRX for 5 counts pulling up and then 5 counts lowering down, and it was phenomenal. He could do the 10 pull-ups in normal pace, but the 5 up and 5 counts down was really, really challenging. So we have to zhuzh it up and make it more interesting and get them moving quickly and then get them moving slowly. Sometimes those slow movements can be exceptionally powerful, and that's really imperative for what we do. The other thing I wanted to tell you is we have so many of our members and people that follow us that tag us and say, these are the courses you have to do, you've got to go and try this out, and we are exceptionally grateful for that. When you tag at of-CourseOnline.com, it should actually come up, so you just put at and then it actually comes up. Otherwise, I see a lot of people tag my name as well, which I'm super grateful for. So I've decided that whenever you tag us and you are telling somebody else that you're really enjoying these courses and they should really have a look at them, we are going to send you a coupon just to say thank you so much for sharing us with others. If you feel that we have given you something back and you've really learned, and somebody else asks a question about where should they go for anatomy, or where should they go for shoulders, or where should they go for whatever, and you tag us, we're going, but if you have to actually tag us, otherwise we don't know that you did it. So we can't send you a coupon. But I've decided you're going to go get a discount coupon and go and choose a course that you want to do with a discount. I think that's only fair, and that's how we build our community. The other thing I really wanted to say is, I get so many emails on saying, thank you so much, this has really changed the way I teach, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I would love it if you could either comment below or send us a private message or tag us in the videos that you're doing, or not the videos, some of the courses that you're doing, and just tell us how our work and the OffCourseOnline courses and these short little videos are inspiring you or motivating you or helping you. It really helps us know what more do you want to learn, and it also helps us tell other people that our members or our followers are really gaining knowledge and inspiration and motivation from the work that we are doing. So that really helps us as well. Everybody's trying to get as much knowledge in as possible, and I'm trying to build as much content as possible. You'll actually see on our Facebook page, the shop is being updated. It's just getting more and more and more and more. And I wish Facebook would stop rejecting some of our products that look exactly the same as other products and say it doesn't fit in with the guidelines. And I'm like, it's a photo of the shoulder, and this one's a photo of the hip, and they're accepting that one. But we're working through it. But you can go and look at the shop, it's been updated. And there's more and more and more that's coming in there. We will be doing the equipment workshops. I will be getting that together. And I think that's going to be really exciting, and you're going to learn a lot about the breakdown of exercises and understanding the biomechanics and anatomy and movement. There will be a Black Friday special running, so just give us a little bit of time. We have already put it together. So you can go and look in your cart and see if there was anything specific that you wanted to learn, because that will be the time to take it. And then, yeah, I hope that this is helping you a lot. And if there's anything specific that you would like me to cover, you can just comment below, send us a private message. We get quite a few of those as well, and we try and work through them to the best of our ability. If we take a little bit longer to reply, then it's just because we're just inundated with a lot of messages. Somebody asked me, when will our Pilates math course be on the American Council on Exercise website? It is there right now. It launched yesterday. What a journey that was. It's under the specialist courses. And one of the things that I can tell anybody who's thinking, well, should they really want to try this project, or they have this in mind that they'd like to change at their business, is act on inspired thought. That is so important. If you come up with an idea, the only thing that will make that idea a reality is if you go for it. And I remember about 10 years or 12 years ago, I thought to myself, I would love people within the fitness industry to get a Pilates course that just increases the quality of training currently, that makes you feel like you've learned so much. You can get a fabulous hairdresser and you can get a really not so great one. And it's the same with Pilates. You could have done a fabulous course, or you could have done a not so great one. And when I filmed that Pilates mat course, my vision was for it to reach as many people as possible, for them to get a better quality education. And in my head, I really want this to go to the American Council on Exercise, because I think this will be of such value to their professionals. So while I was filming, that was my thought process the whole time. And yesterday, it's on their website. It's looking wonderful. I've seen how it works on there. It's absolutely amazing. So you can go and check that out if you want to. Alternatively, you know it is on our website, and it's always been there. So without further ado, I hope that you have a fabulous weekend, and I hope this has helped you a little bit, and I will see you soon again. Take care.